Okay, so we are going to dive in. Let's start. So you were kind of talking about the run game, and so let's jump right into that. Let's see here. Boom, there we go. There's the yardage. There are the numbers. Virginia is averaging 144 yards a game. Again, Armstrong accounts for 30 yards of that. So everybody else accounts for 114 yards of that offense or on the ground. And obviously that's not great. They rank 84th in the country as a team. And, 5 yards a carry is not bad, but you can tell that they don't try to run it that often if they're averaging 5 yards a carry.
And you have to include the 3 to 5 jet sweeps that they run, in that as well.
Absolutely.
Malapapa, look, I think he has right at 300 yards on the season at this point.
Yeah, 294 or 290. Excuse me, 290.
Yeah. And that's your leading rusher,
right?
It's like no, Rob and I they've committed to the fact that the best way for us to win is to put the ball in the hands of Brennan Armstrong and let him. But he has a lot of weapons. Now,
yes, he does.
This is not like Sam Howell and Keaton Slovis having Drake London and Josh Downs. It's totally different.
Yep.
Totally different. This is wide open, and they have 3 or 4 guys that can beat you.
No question.
3 or 4 guys, and then they have, I swear they have a 7-footer playing tight end. Like, this kid he's number 0 is absolutely huge, and he can run like a deer. So they have weapons in the passing game.
Right.
And they love to gut you in the seams. So it's going to be a really difficult task for Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
It's somewhat depleted secondary because remember, Tariq Bracy, is kind of injured as well. So you're going to see Ramon Henderson and a lot of youngsters getting into the game. And we'll see what they have and what they can do.
Yeah, I think, from a running attack standpoint, Notre Dame is obviously very good against the run when they focus on the run. I think that, where the Virginia coaching staff could run into a problem if they start looking at what, for example, USC did to Notre Dame towards the end of the game, what North Carolina did at times, during their game where they were running at will because Notre Dame wasn't even trying to stop the run at that point, going 3 front, all of that fun stuff. And I'm a little bit worried that Notre Dame is going to go back to that 3 front and just kind of focus on shutting down the passing game. Yeah. And then Virginia, they're good enough where they can take advantage of you if you're not going to try to stop the run. Notre Dame, at this point in the season, I think, and I want to get your opinion on this as well, it's not just about the 3 front. That it does annoy me when everybody's like, oh, 3 front, they can't, blah, blah. It's not just about the 3 front, but Notre Dame has shown that they are better when they've got 4 down.
Yeah.
They're better at stopping the run when they're 4 down. And you can still defend against the pass with 4 down. What are they going to do against this Virginia team? Because they don't try to run the ball that much, but they can if they need to. That's, I think, where I'm going to be kind of keeping my eye on things as far as what this defense is going to do to this offense.
So the injury to their quarterback might force their hand to say, look, we can't expect him to give us 30 to 40 yards on the ground.
Right.
So we have to find it somewhere else, whether it's more jet sweeps,
sure,
more screens behind the line of scrimmage, or committing to the run game even more. And if they do that, going up against that 3 down, then they might have some success in the play action game. But for me, just watching how they go about doing things, I still believe Rob and I is going to put his faith and his trust in his quarterback. And I mean, how you have to totally understand that.
Still got to be you, right? I mean, that's their identity.
This dude is like second nationally passing efficiency, and they put points up, and they have weapons. And their greater weapons are really about the wide receivers and the tight end.
Absolutely.
Malapapa he's okay.
Right.
I'm Malapapa, I'm sorry. At running back. So the difference here is we knew that they had power running backs at USC with Ingram and Number 19 for North Carolina. His name,
Right.
Because he came out and was a Mack truck against Wake Forest as well.
Yes, he was.
In
He had
that
that big
game.
run against them. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't just Sam Howell. He was huge in the second half of that game, wearing down that Demon Deacons defense. So for me, the rush game for Virginia becomes more of a weapon in the second half.
Right.
Starting off early, I really don't think they want. I think they perceive Notre Dame's weakness in the secondary.
Sure.
At this point, especially if 14 is not out there.
Huge. Yeah.
I think they come out and they try to jump out early and hold on. That's probably the best way. Best route to winning this game is to get up on Notre Dame and cause Notre Dame to play from behind. Because even though they love to pass the ball, if you give Notre Dame and their defensive front the ability to just pin their ears back, one of the listeners just said in the chat, yeah, this is a game. Mm-hmm. You see Notre Dame come up with 4, 5, 6 sacks because they're going to have plenty of opportunities and they don't have to worry about the run game on their way to the quarterback. So,
right.
Vince, if you and I were OCs for Virginia, we would probably say, you know what? Let's run a lot of draws.
Right.
Let's catch them off balance.
Because if they're going to pin their ears back and come, you got to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Some screens,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Get them on their heels and attack them that way. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Rob and I chooses to attack the Notre Dame defense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, look, Notre Dame, like I said, when their focus is stopping the run game first and then defending the pass game, they're very good against the run. I mean, the numbers that I'm looking at right here are not terrible, right? They're allowing less yards than Virginia, rushes for. I mean, it puts them 54th in the country. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. They're not bad against the run. I think they've been abused a little bit at certain times.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that they obviously need to work on, and I think that they're getting better at that.
I agree.
Yeah. So it's what is the focus going to be for Marcus Freeman's defense? How are they going to go up against this? But I think for me, I'm still going to give the advantage to Notre Dame, mainly because I don't think Virginia is going to try to run that much.
No.
And so I think that automatically gives Notre Dame the advantage.
And, the yards per game for Notre Dame's defense has gone up simply because number 14 hasn't been there.
Right.
Let's just be real. The chess piece he is for Marcus Freeman and that defense. And then number 2, they face 2 teams that love to throw the ball, and they made the conscious decision not to be as aggressive.
Right.
Against USC and North Carolina to keep them. And if they had played fundamental football against North Carolina, they probably hold North Carolina under 30 points.
Agreed.
I'm talking about just simple tackling.
Right.
And not making mistakes, not getting 2 guys rushing in the same gap.
Right.
Allowing Sam Howell to get outside and run the ball the way he ran the ball. If they just play sound fundamental football, if they do that against Virginia, I think they can do the same thing.
Right.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
And I asked Brian this question offline, but since we're talking about this matchup, I want to get your answer to it and the listeners, because I think it's going to play well for how the committee looks at Notre Dame after this game. I think this is a big game.
I do
big
too.
Showcase. The committee will be watching. It's prime time. This is a game where if you put on the show, the full complete show as a team, Notre Dame can jump a couple of spots. I really do believe that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this is their last marquee game of the season. This is their last hurdle. If they can get over this with flying colors, beat Virginia by a few touchdowns, I think that goes a long way. I really do. Because Virginia, you could argue, is playing better than USC and North Carolina, which everybody thought was going to be the marquee games of the season. That's why they were night games, by the way, at home. And you're right, especially if Armstrong plays. If Armstrong plays, I think that plays actually into the hand of Notre Dame from an overall standpoint. Will the game be closer if he plays? Probably.
More than likely.
But will it be a bigger win if he plays? Absolutely. Because the haters just, their starting quarterback was out. Of course Notre Dame won. Or of course they won in, great fashion. I mean, it's still built in because his ribs are not going to be completely healed.
No.
Right. And so the excuse is still built in that he's not at 100%. Right. But this is still the biggest hurdle for Notre Dame left on the schedule. And people can, talk up Stanford and Georgia Tech all they want. This is still the biggest hurdle left, and it's not close. So I agree with you. I think if Notre Dame does what they should do in this matchup, that yes, they could bump up a few spots for sure.
Yeah, their rush stats are going to be really good coming out of this game.
Right, absolutely.
I think they hold Virginia under 100 yards.
Yeah. On the ground? Yeah, they should.
Yeah,
absolutely, they should.
Yeah.
All right.